The patrol car moved slowly along the narrow road as night wrapped the forest in silence. Officer Mark sat alert behind the wheel, while Rex the police dog rested upright in the back seat watching the darkness through the window. Rex was trained to notice what humans missed, and his body suddenly stiffened as his nose lifted. A sharp scent had reached him, and his quiet breathing turned focused. Mark noticed the change and slowed the car even more as his instincts told him to trust the dog. Rex let out a low sound and pressed his paw against the door, which was his signal that something was wrong. Mark stopped the car and stepped out into the cold air with Rex beside him. The ground was damp and uneven, and the trees stood close together blocking most of the moonlight. Rex pulled gently on the leash, guiding Mark away from the road and into the shadows. Every step felt heavier as the silence deepened and the night seemed to hold its breath. They reached a small open space where the earth dipped and leaves gathered in piles. Rex stopped suddenly and lowered his head toward the ground. Mark followed his gaze, and his heart tightened when he saw a small figure lying still. It was a young girl stretched across the cold soil as if she had fallen and never gotten back up. Her clothes were thin and dirty, and her arms were drawn close to her body as if trying to stay warm. Mark rushed forward and knelt beside her, calling softly to see if she could hear him. Her eyes were open but unfocused, and her face showed no strength left for tears. She was too weak to cry and too tired to move. Rex stepped closer and lay down beside her, pressing his warm body against her side. The girl's fingers twitched and slowly rested in his fur, which made Rex stay even more still. Mark checked her breathing and felt how shallow it was. The cold had drained her, and time was not on their side. He wrapped his jacket around her shoulders and spoke gently to keep her awake. The girl tried to speak, but no sound came out and her lips trembled. Mark told her she was safe now and that help was there even if she could not understand the words. Rex lifted his head and looked toward the dark path leading back to the road. His ears moved and his body tensed with decision. He stood and barked once loud and clear, then looked back at Mark as if asking permission. Mark understood immediately and removed the leash. Rex turned and ran with powerful strides, disappearing into the forest without hesitation. Mark stayed with the girl, rubbing her hands and arms to keep warmth moving through her body. He told her simple things about the night and the dog and the road nearby, hoping his voice would keep her anchored. The wind picked up and leaves shifted around them, making the cold sharper. Mark felt helpless without communication and watched the dark path where Rex had vanished. As minutes passed, Mark worried about how long the girl had been there. Her skin was pale and her breathing uneven, but she still held onto Rex's fur even though the dog was gone. Mark gently placed her hand back inside the jacket to keep it warm. He promised quietly that help was coming and that she would not be left again. Far away, Rex ran with all his strength, guided by training and something deeper than commands. He burst from the trees and reached the road where he stopped a passing vehicle with sharp barks and firm stance. The driver froze, seeing the police dog alone at night, and quickly followed when Rex turned and ran back toward the forest. Rex did not slow down because he knew every second mattered. Back in the clearing, Mark heard distant voices and lights flickered through the trees. Relief washed over him as Rex appeared again, leading 2 officers and a medical team. They moved quickly and carefully, lifting the girl onto a stretcher and wrapping her in warm blankets. Rex stayed close, watching her face until her eyes slowly closed in safe exhaustion. As they carried her toward the waiting vehicle, Mark looked at Rex with gratitude and pride. The dog had done more than follow training that night. He had chosen to act with heart and instinct. In the quiet forest, a life had been pulled back from the edge, and it had started with a dog who refused to walk away. The night slowly released its hold as the vehicles drove away, leaving the clearing empty once more. But something had changed there, and the silence felt softer. Rex rested his head beside Mark, knowing the job was not over yet, and that the story of the girl was only beginning. The hospital lights were bright and steady as the girl was rushed through the doors on a moving bed. Nurses moved quickly but calmly while Mark walked beside them, holding on to hope. Rex stayed close, never leaving her side and watching every movement with sharp eyes. The girl was taken into a warm room and covered with clean blankets while machines began their quiet work. Her breathing slowly became steadier as warmth returned to her body. Mark stood near the wall waiting as doctors checked her condition and spoke in low voices. They said she was very weak from cold and hunger and had been alone for far too long. One doctor gently said that finding her when they did had saved her life. Mark felt the weight of those words settle in his chest. Rex lay down near the door but kept his eyes on the girl, as if guarding her even now. Hours passed quietly, and the night slowly faded into early morning. The girl slept deeply for the first time in a long while. When her eyes finally opened again, she looked around with confusion and fear. Mark stepped closer and spoke softly so she would not be scared. He told her she was safe and that no one would hurt her anymore. Rex lifted his head and moved closer, letting her see him. The girl looked at Rex first, and her eyes filled with tears that finally had strength to fall. She reached out slowly and touched his fur, and Rex leaned in carefully. That simple moment broke the wall of fear inside her. She whispered her name as Anna in a weak voice. Mark smiled gently and told her his name and pointed to Rex, who wagged his tail slowly. Anna tried to remember how she ended up in the forest, but her thoughts were scattered. She spoke about getting lost and walking for a long time until her legs stopped working. She remembered the cold and the dark and lying down because she could not go on. Mark listened without interrupting, letting her speak at her own pace. Every word mattered, and every pause showed how much she had endured. Later that day, officers began searching records to find Anna's family. There were reports of a missing girl from a nearby town, and the details matched. Mark felt relief knowing answers were close. Rex stayed near Anna throughout the day, resting his head beside her bed. Nurses noticed how calm she became when he was near and allowed him to stay. As evening came, Anna grew stronger and was able to sit up with help. She asked quietly if Rex would stay with her. Mark assured her that Rex was not going anywhere. That promise seemed to give her comfort deeper than words. She smiled faintly and held onto Rex's collar as if afraid the world might disappear again. Outside the hospital window the sky darkened, but this night felt different. It felt safe. Mark stood watching Anna sleep again, knowing the hardest part was behind her. Rex rested beside the bed, alert but peaceful. The bond formed in the forest had followed them into this room, and it was strong. News of the rescue spread quietly among the department. Officers spoke of how Rex had acted without hesitation and how his instincts had guided them. Mark knew that Rex had done more than his duty. He had followed something deeper that night. That understanding stayed with him. Late that night, Anna woke once more and looked around calmly. She whispered thanks, though her voice was still soft. Mark told her she was brave and that she had survived something very hard. Rex lifted his head and gave a gentle sound that made her smile again. For the first time since being found, she looked at peace. The road ahead would not be easy for Anna. There would be questions and healing and memories to face. But she was not alone anymore. A dog had found her when she could not call for help. A promise had been made in the cold forest, and it was being kept. As the hospital settled into quiet, Mark sat beside Rex, knowing this was only part of the story. Something important had begun that night. A life had been saved, and a bond had formed that would not be forgotten. Morning light entered the hospital room softly as Anna opened her eyes and felt warmth instead of fear. The sounds around her were calm and steady, and she realized she was no longer alone. Rex was still there, lying near her bed with his head resting on his paws. When Anna moved slightly, Rex lifted his head and looked at her with gentle focus. That look made her feel safe in a way she could not explain. Mark arrived later with fresh clothes and warm food arranged by the staff. Anna ate slowly as her strength returned bit by bit. She spoke more clearly now and told Mark about her home and how she had wandered away after getting confused on a long walk. She talked about the trees looking the same and the road disappearing. Her voice stayed steady, but her hands trembled as memories returned. Rex stayed close the entire time, offering quiet comfort. The search team confirmed that Anna's family had been located and were on their way. Mark shared the news carefully, watching her reaction. Anna felt relief mixed with fear because she did not know how to explain what had happened. Mark told her that she did not need to explain anything yet and that healing came first. Rex nudged her hand gently, as if agreeing. As the day passed, Anna was moved to a brighter room and allowed to walk a few steps with help. Each step felt heavy, but she did not give up. Rex walked beside her slowly, matching her pace. Nurses smiled at the sight and spoke about how strong she was becoming. Anna smiled too because strength no longer felt lonely. Later, Mark received permission to take Rex outside for a short break. Anna watched from the window, feeling a strange worry as Rex walked away. Mark noticed and brought Rex back to her before leaving. Anna laughed softly, realizing she had grown attached. Rex rested his head on the edge of her bed and stayed still again. When Anna's family arrived, emotions filled the room quietly. Tears flowed, but there was no shouting or fear. Anna hugged them gently, still tired but relieved. Mark stepped back, allowing the moment to belong to them. Rex watched calmly, sensing the shift. Anna introduced Rex proudly and said he had saved her. Her family thanked Mark and Rex with words full of gratitude. As evening approached, Anna felt tired again but stronger in spirit. She spoke to Mark about how she remembered giving up in the cold. She said she thought sleep would take her away. Then she remembered warmth and breathing beside her. She remembered fur and a steady presence. Rex listened quietly, as if understanding every word. Mark later walked the halls thinking about that night in the forest. He realized how close everything had come to ending differently. Rex walked beside him, calm and focused. Mark rested his hand on Rex's back, knowing the dog had changed more than one life. The bond between Anna and Rex was something rare and powerful. That night, Anna slept deeply again without fear. Rex lay nearby, alert but peaceful. The hospital lights dimmed and silence returned. The story was not finished yet, but the hardest moments were behind them. Trust had replaced fear and hope had replaced cold. The forest felt far away now, but its lesson remained. Some rescues end quickly, but others leave marks that last forever. This was one of those moments. A dog had followed instinct and heart. A girl had survived because someone refused to walk away. And the road ahead, though uncertain, was now filled with light and connection. The days that followed moved gently as Anna continued to regain her strength and confidence. She spent time walking the hospital halls with support, and each step felt easier than the last. Rex stayed nearby whenever he was allowed, and his presence brought calm to her breathing. Mark watched the change with quiet pride, knowing healing was happening not only in the body but also in the heart. Soon the doctors said Anna could return home, and that news filled the room with relief. Her family prepared everything carefully, wanting her to feel safe again. On the morning of her release, Anna dressed slowly and looked at Rex with worry. She asked Mark if she would ever see him again. Mark knelt beside her and told her some bonds do not disappear even when paths change. Before leaving the hospital, Anna hugged Rex gently, and Rex pressed close as if memorizing her scent. The moment felt heavy but peaceful. Mark promised to visit and made sure Anna knew she could always ask about Rex. Anna smiled and said she would never forget the night in the forest or the warmth that saved her. Back at the station, Rex returned to duty, but something had shifted. He seemed more watchful and more aware of the world around him. Mark noticed how Rex paused more often, listening and sensing. The team spoke quietly about the rescue and how it reminded them why they chose this work. Rex did not seek praise, but his calm strength filled the space. Weeks passed, and Anna slowly returned to normal life. She went outside again, walked short paths, and learned to trust the world once more. Sometimes she dreamed of the forest, but the fear faded each time she remembered Rex beside her. Her family noticed the change and supported her every step. Healing became a shared journey. One afternoon, Mark received a letter written carefully in simple words. It was from Anna. She thanked him and Rex and said she was doing well. She said she was not afraid of the dark anymore. Mark smiled and showed the letter to Rex, who wagged his tail softly. That small message carried a powerful reminder. Months later, the department organized a small gathering to honor acts of service. Rex stood beside Mark, calm and steady as his name was spoken. There were no loud celebrations, only respectful smiles and quiet applause. Mark placed his hand on Rex, knowing the true reward was already given. A life had been saved, and that mattered more than anything else. After the event, Mark took Rex for a walk near the edge of the forest where it all began. The trees stood tall and silent, just as before. Mark felt gratitude instead of fear this time. Rex paused for a moment, sniffing the air, then looked up at Mark. There was no urgency now, only peace. Far away, Anna played outside with a new sense of freedom. She looked at the sky and smiled, thinking of a dog who found her when she could not call out. That memory gave her strength. She knew that even in the darkest moments someone might be watching, waiting to help. Life continued moving forward for everyone involved. The forest remained quiet, the hospital returned to routine, and the road stayed empty at night. But something invisible had changed. Courage had answered silence, and kindness had found its way through the cold. Some stories end loudly, but others end softly with a sense of meaning that stays. This was one of those stories. A police dog trusted instinct and heart. A girl survived when hope seemed gone. And the bond formed on cold ground became a light that guided them all forward.